The millionaire leaves his safe open to trap the single. What he did next left him stunned. Marcus Sterling stood in the doorway of his study, watching the young man carefully dust the ornate safe. Thomas China, 32 years old, soft-spoken, with kind eyes that carried the weight of someone who'd known struggle. He wore a simple denim shirt, slightly worn at the cuffs, and moved through the room with quiet efficiency. Marcus had hired Thomas 3 weeks ago to help with maintenance around the estate. The young man arrived each morning at 7, worked diligently until 3, then hurried home to his daughter. Single father, Thomas had mentioned during the interview. His wife had passed 2 years prior, leaving him to raise their 8-year-old girl, Sophie, alone. At 64, Marcus had seen enough of the world to be cautious. His late wife, Eleanor, used to tell him he was too trusting. After she died 5 years ago, he'd become more careful, more watchful, especially after his nephew had stolen from him last year, taking advantage of Marcus's grief. So Marcus had developed a test, a simple one, really. He left the safe open, not wide open, but slightly ajar, with stacks of $100 bills visible inside, enough money to tempt anyone facing hardship, enough to solve immediate problems. Marcus would leave it that way, then watch from the security cameras in his bedroom. He'd tested 3 housekeepers this way. All 3 had taken money, small amounts at first, then more. He'd let them go quietly, sadly, each time. Now it was Thomas's turn. Marcus settled into his leather chair upstairs, the monitor glowing softly before him. On the screen, Thomas moved about the study, organizing books, wiping down surfaces. He approached the safe to dust the decorative frame around it. Thomas paused. Marcus leaned forward. The young man stared at the open door, at the money inside. His hand lifted slightly, then dropped. He glanced toward the doorway, then back at the safe. Marcus watched the conflict play across Thomas's fascia. The need, the temptation, the struggle. Thomas reached out. Marcus's heart sank. But Thomas didn't reach inside. Instead, he gently pushed the safe door closed, checking to make sure it was secure. Then he continued dusting as if nothing had happened. Marcus sat back, stunned. He watched for another hour as Thomas finished his work, never once returning to the safe, never once showing any sign of reconsidering. That evening, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about it. He ran the test again the next day. Same result. Thomas closed the safe and moved on. On the 3rd day, Marcus decided to try something different. He left a sealed envelope on his desk labeled Thomas's wages of 2 weeks. Inside, he'd placed $1,200, exactly what he owed Thomas, plus a small bonus. Through the camera, Marcus watched Thomas enter the study. The young man saw the envelope, opened it carefully, counted the money twice, then placed it in his worn wallet. But then Thomas did something unexpected. He pulled out a small notepad from his pocket and wrote something down. When he left the room, he placed the notepad on Marcus's desk. Later, Marcus read the note. Mr. Sterling, received 2 weeks' wages plus $200 bonus. Thank you for your generosity. If the bonus was a mistake, please let me know and I'll return it. A. Thomas Chen. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He thought about Eleanor, about how she'd always believed in seeing the good in people. He thought about his nephew's betrayal, about the housekeepers who'd stolen from him, about the walls he'd built around his heart. And he thought about Thomas, who'd closed an open safe and worried that an intentional bonus might be a mistake. The next morning, Marcus was waiting in the study when Thomas arrived. Mr. Sterling, Thomas said, surprised. Is everything all right? Sit down, please, Marcus said gently. Thomas sat, concern evident on his face. If I've done something wrong, you've done everything right, Marcus interrupted. That's why I need to talk to you. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Thomas, I need to confess something. For the past 3 days, I've been testing you. I left my safe open deliberately. I wanted to see what you would do. Thomas's eyes widened. He didn't speak. You closed it, Marcus continued, his voice soft. 3 times, you closed it and walked away. Do you know why that matters to me? Thomas shook his head slowly. Because it tells me who you are when no one's watching, Marcus said. It tells me that despite your struggles, despite raising a daughter alone, despite working multiple jobs, yes, I know about your evening shift at the grocery store. You're still honest, still decent. Thomas looked down at his hands. Mr. Sterling, I won't lie. I thought about it. That first day, I stood there and thought about how that money could help Sophie. New shoes, her class trip, fixing the car. All of it ran through my mind. But you didn't take it, Marcus said gently. No, sir, because it wasn't mine. Thomas looked up, and Marcus saw tears in his eyes. My father used to tell me that a man's character is measured by what he does when he thinks no one will know. And I want Sophie to have a father she can be proud of. A father who taught her that we don't take shortcuts, even when life is hard. Marcus felt his own eyes growing moist. Your father was a wise man. He was a janitor, Thomas said quietly. Worked nights for 30 years, raised 4 kids, never missed a day. Died with almost nothing in the bank, but everyone who spoke at his funeral talked about his integrity. That's the inheritance he left me. That's what I want to leave Sophie. They sat in silence for a moment, 2 men from different worlds, connected by shared values that transcended wealth. Finally, Marcus spoke. Thomas, I've made many mistakes in my life. After my wife died, I became bitter, suspicious. I forgot that Eleanor always saw the best in people, and she was usually right. You've reminded me of something important, that goodness still exists in this world. He stood and walked to his desk, pulling out a folder. I'd like to offer you a full-time position. Estate manager, salary of $75,000 a year, health insurance, and housing in the guest cottage. It's small but comfortable, 3 bedrooms, good schools nearby for Sophie. Thomas stared at him, speechless. You've earned my trust, Marcus said simply. That's worth more than money to me. Thomas's voice broke. Mr. Sterling, I can't. You can, Marcus said firmly but kindly. And you will. Because Sophie deserves a father who doesn't have to work himself to exhaustion. Because you deserve a chance. And because I need someone trustworthy around here. Someone who reminds me why Eleanor always believed in people. Thomas stood, wiping his eyes. I don't know what to say. Say you will start on Monday, Marcus replied, extending his hand. They shook hands, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest. The walls he'd built were beginning to crumble. Eleanor would have been proud. That weekend, Marcus helped Thomas and Sophie move into the cottage. The little girl, with her father's kind eyes and her mother's smile, brought life back to the estate. Her laughter echoed through the gardens, reminding Marcus of grandchildren he'd never had. Sometimes, late at night, Marcus would look out his window and see lights on in the cottage. He'd imagine Thomas reading to Sophie, or helping with homework, or simply being present in the way good fathers are, and he'd feel grateful that he'd tested Thomas, not because of what he might have found, but because of what he did find, a reminder that integrity still matters, that kindness still exists, and that trust, once given to the right person, can heal old wounds. The safe remained closed now. Marcus no longer felt the need to test people. Thomas had taught him a more important lesson. Sometimes the greatest wealth isn't what we protect in a safe, but what we discover in the character of others when we give them the chance to show us who they truly are.